And to that point, Borja, has that been the biggest challenge for you guys? Is like getting the world to see things in, I think the term that was used by McShane was Bitcoin terms. Like, what's the biggest challenge in building this new platform that completely bypasses fiat and brokers? What's been the biggest hurdle for you guys while building Roxom?
I think, Hank, that for the Bitcoiners throughout the world, you have like two different categories of Bitcoiners. You have like the strong HODL maxis, and you have the smart, what I call the smart Bitcoiners. And I'll give you an example. In the last 5 years, if you bought Nvidia, you would be up 300% in Bitcoin. So if from 2020 to today you had Nvidia, your portfolio in Bitcoin would be up 300%. So me, for example, and I try to consider myself a smart Bitcoiner, I would have loved to have Nvidia instead of Bitcoin. And why? Because I would be worth 300% more than if I had kept my Bitcoin. And what I want to say and mean with this is that today, a big part of Bitcoin is like you should buy and hodl and do anything and don't do anything else. And I disagree. I strongly disagree. I think that much better than hodling is to deploy your Bitcoin in opportunities that is going to yield even more Bitcoin. Nvidia is one. MicroStrategy is another. MicroStrategy from 2020, early 24 to today has done a 200% in Bitcoin. So if you had 100 Bitcoins and you invested them in MicroStrategy in 24, you'd be worth 300 Bitcoins today. So what was it better in the last 2 years, to hold Bitcoin or to hold MicroStrategy? Well, the truth is, it was better to hold MicroStrategy. And what I reinforce is hodling and just keeping Bitcoin is not the best way of doing Bitcoin. Actually, that's pretty like, how can I say it? That's very hard-headed. That's just being like a hodl maxi just because. So I would say that our challenge is to enlighten this set of Bitcoiners and show them how, honestly, better than buying one Bitcoin and keeping your Bitcoin is to increase that one Bitcoin that you have. And many times, these HODL Bitcoiners remind me of Argentines. And what happens in Argentina? In Argentina, you had the Argentines that started saving in dollars and keeping those dollars under the mattress. And then you had the Argentines that not only escaped the peso and bought dollars, but actually put those dollars to work. And for me, a Bitcoiner that the only thing that he does is buying Bitcoin is the same as an Argentine that the only thing that he does is buying US dollars. Like, clap, yes, you've got rid of the weaker currency. You've got rid of the shitty currency. Like, you're an Argentine, you have pesos, now you bought dollars. Okay, congratulations, man. You have escaped the shitty currency, the weak currency. But now, those dollars, you need to do something with them. You know, like, it's not only about keeping those dollars under the mattress. And for Bitcoin, I believe it's the same. Like, once you've bought Bitcoin, okay, amazing, congratulations. You've escaped the weaker, the shitty currency. But now what? Are you going to keep those Bitcoins under a mattress, or are you going to work so that those Bitcoins give you some sort of yield, or that you can invest those Bitcoins and get some sort of Bitcoin returns? And again, last 5 years, my Nvidia, 300% up in Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, last 2 years, 200% in Bitcoin. If I go to MetaPlanet, that has gone from 40, 50 yen all the way to 1600 yen in the last 12, 14 months, same thing, amazing returns in Bitcoin. So for us, the difficulty will be in, or the challenge will be in the smart Bitcoiners. They get this, they already deploy Bitcoin, they already put Bitcoin to work. They already denominate investments and trades and things in Bitcoins. So for them, everything is amazing. Like Roxom is a perfect product. But for the rest of the Bitcoiner base that are like, just buy and hodl and do nothing else and ride all the way up and all the way down, well, I strongly disagree. I think that there's much better ways to deploy and treat your Bitcoin. And again, I don't like the fact or the idea that I could have more Bitcoins should I invested in Nvidia 4 or 5 years ago, should I have invested in MicroStrategy 2 years ago, and so on. So we want to make sure that all Bitcoiners understand that it's a good step for you personally to start using Bitcoin as a hurdle rate, as a unit of account, and so on. But that's just the first step. Now, once you've got into this Bitcoin mindset, it's about how to deploy your Bitcoin.
Right. And along those lines, I think you touched on a little bit, Borja, and this one's for McShane. Kind of to Borja's point, this is a new opportunity for investors. I mean, we already have companies like Metaplanet and Strategy are already listed on fiat exchanges. For those of us out there still trying to wrap our heads around why this is such an exciting opportunity going forward, what changes for investors once they're available to invest in companies like Metaplanet and Strategy, but in BTC terms? Like, why would they want to do this as opposed to continuing down the fiat route that we've seen for so long?
Because they're not managing risk properly on fiat terms. You're not using a proper measuring stick. Like, your numbers are bad. You have the wrong denominator. Like, what I really like about what Borja said is, like, okay, we can acknowledge, like, there are people who probably are not ever going to be interested in trading. Like, just as a culture in America and in Europe, everyone's trying to chase fast money because they're being debased. So they're basically forced, because the dollar is so weak as a savings technology, to learn how to become, real estate managers, amateur investment managers, and like traders. And that's fine and good. Like, a lot of Bitcoin's response to that, like from a narrative standpoint, was just buy and hold this. You don't need to do all of that. But what happens over the years is, like, you're going to accumulate a pretty good nest egg if you stay focused on that goal of just accumulating Bitcoin. So now you have all this savings, and if you actually use Bitcoin as the denominator, you're going to see that there's a lot of more opportunities, potential asymmetric upsides. Like, there are things that outperform Bitcoin, and that is like the underlying question on whether or not you should allocate and risk your coins. Is not the returns in US dollars, is it going to beat the price appreciation of Bitcoin? Like, I used to do a lot of private equity with a guy called Mike Jarmuz in Bitcoin, and that was the first thing I would talk very honest to investors, is just like, look, don't invest in this company if you don't think it's going to outperform Bitcoin, because that's a silly thing to do. Why would you trade your Bitcoin for less Bitcoin? But the only way to properly measure that is to think in Bitcoin terms. So, like, I would argue over time, like, there's probably plenty of people who are new, and like, I would say for them, like, not to give investment advice, but it's probably best to have some Bitcoin to start. So, like, and then you have to decide, what is your risk profile? How much of that stack are you willing to risk to go try to outperform Bitcoin? If you're open to doing that, then like, Roxom Exchange is for you, and you should be using that, because otherwise you're just not using a correct denominator, and you don't have accurate numbers, and you're not actually seeing the performance versus what you could have had just holding Bitcoin. So it's like it gives you a whole new calculus to measure your investments and assess risk. And so as a risk manager, this is just a necessary tool. It's the logical next step for anyone looking to spend Bitcoin on anything, really.
Yeah, and also, Hank, something to add to what Alex is saying. If, like, in Bitcoin terms, you're generally you're just getting poorer. Like, every day, in general, you're just getting more and more poor. This is if you look at things in Bitcoin. So if you hold traditional stocks, traditional assets, and things that do not outperform Bitcoin, like Nvidia, MicroStrategy, in this short term, some Bitcoin treasury companies and some specific assets in general, the only thing that is happening to your wallet and to yourself is that you're becoming more and more poorer every single day. And this is just because of the fact that your portfolio, your net worth, every single year is worth less and less Bitcoin. It's not worth more and more Bitcoin. Each one of us, if you don't have the money in the right place, your net worth, your portfolio, your everything is worth less and less and less Bitcoin. Now there's a big trend about people talking about this in real estate. Real estate against Bitcoin is going down bad. And yeah, like your house is worth less and less and less Bitcoin every single day, every single year. So, and most of things are worth less and less Bitcoins every single year. So,
Yeah.
Using Bitcoin as a hurdle rate, as a unit of account, looking at assets and their charts and everything in Bitcoin is truly the only way to start understanding what assets, what things we should hold and what things we shouldn't. And in Argentina, I always go back to Argentina because in Argentina, the same thing happened. In dollar terms, most things in Argentina were just going down. So most stocks and assets that you would hold in Argentina in dollars, you would be becoming poorer every single day. So only when people started measuring things in dollars, then they could understand what things were desirable to hold, what assets, real estate, stocks, whatever was desirable to hold, and what things not. Because in pesos, everything is going down when the peso is depreciating. But the thing is that in dollars, everything is going down. So in pesos, sorry, everything is going up in pesos. But in dollars, everything is going down. And in the macro world today, same thing is going on. In dollars, most of the markets and assets are going up. If you look at the S&P, like Alex just said, 95, 98% in the last 5 years since 2020. But if you look at that in Bitcoin, it's just going down. So if you want to truly become richer in the only true currency that matters, because the only thing that matters, at least for me and at least for us in Roxom, what we believe is that the only thing that matters is to have a financial well-being in Bitcoin terms, which means that you should always accumulate more Bitcoin, not be worth less Bitcoin. And the only true way to achieve goal is by measuring things in Bitcoin, is by using Bitcoin as a unit of account, and ultimately to deploy capital in Bitcoin terms. So it's not bad if you think that you should buy dollars, that you should have dollars, because you could think that the dollar is appreciating against Bitcoin or whatever. But what it's important is that you're always looking at a chart where Bitcoin is your unit of account, and whatever thesis you create, whatever decisions you make, are always with the sole purpose and goal of accumulating more Bitcoin and making sure that your portfolio is worth more Bitcoin, and not that you're getting the opposite result, which is what most people get today, which in the Bitcoin world, you are poorer every single day.